Jericho was a fortified city, a symbol of power and resistance. No one dared challenge its walls. But in the midst of this imposing fortress, there was a woman who, at first glance, seemed unlikely, even unexpected, to play a crucial role in God's story. Her name, Rahab, a prostitute. Yes, you heard that right. A prostitute who became a hero. How did that happen? Let's dive into this fascinating story. Rahab was a woman who defied the conventions of her time. Unlike the other women of Jericho, she didn't live an ordinary life, restricted by social norms or the expectations of that era. As an inhabitant of a pagan fortified city, Rahab lived on the fringes of society, not only because of her social status, but also because of her profession. She was a woman who made a living by hosting travelers, which in that culture put her in a position of contempt and isolation. However, there was something extraordinary about Rahab. Her heart was able to see beyond appearances and circumstances. She didn't let herself be limited by what others thought of her or by the fear that dominated the city. When the Israelite spies entered Jericho, sent by Joshua to scout the land God had promised to his people, the city was on high alert. The residents of Jericho had already heard about the wonders that the God of Israel had performed for his people, the crossing of the Red Sea, the defeat of powerful armies, and the promises of a fertile and abundant land. These stories spread like wildfire, filling the hearts of the inhabitants of Jericho with fear and despair. However, while everyone trembled before the imminent arrival of the Israelites, Rahab made a choice that would change her destiny forever. Upon seeing the spies, Rahab didn't see them as enemies, but as an opportunity to align herself with something greater. She hid them in her house, on the roof, under stalks of flax, risking her own life. If she were discovered, the punishment would be death, as betraying the city in times of war was considered one of the most serious crimes. But Rahab didn't act impulsively or out of momentary self-interest. She acted out of genuine and courageous faith. She had heard the stories about the God of Israel, and in her heart she believed that he was the true God, the Lord of heaven and earth. While the whole city was paralyzed by fear, Rahab acted with determination and confidence. Her faith wasn't just a passive belief, but an active faith that manifested in concrete actions. She not only protected the spies, but also negotiated an agreement with them to save her family when the city was conquered. Rahab asked for a sign of loyalty, that the Israelites spare her house, marking it with a red cord in the window. This red cord became a symbol of her faith and the divine protection she sought. When the walls of Jericho fell, as God had promised, Rahab and her family were spared. She not only survived the destruction, but was also integrated into the people of Israel. Later, she married Salmon, an Israelite leader, and became an ancestor of King David and later of Jesus Christ. Rahab's story is a powerful testament to how faith and courage can transform lives and break down barriers. She, a woman who lived on the fringes of society, became an eternal example of how God's grace reaches those who believe, regardless of their origin or past. Rahab didn't act solely out of self-interest or a simple quest for survival. When the spies of Israel came to her house, she could have thought only of saving herself, ensuring her own safety, and leaving the rest behind. However, her heart was bigger than that. Rahab wasn't a selfish person. She thought of those she loved and decided to negotiate the safety of her entire family. This act revealed the depth of her character and the greatness of her soul. She didn't allow her past, marked by a life on the fringes of society, in a profession that many despised, to define her. Instead, she showed that her choices and her faith were what truly mattered. Rahab knew that if the city were conquered, destruction would be inevitable. The stories about the power of the God of Israel had already spread, and she understood that the Israelites' victory was certain. But instead of giving in to despair, she acted with wisdom and strategy. By hiding the spies, she not only protected her life, but also gained their trust. At a crucial moment, she made a bold request that when the city was taken, her family would be spared. She asked for a sign of guarantee, a red cord tied in the window of her house that would serve as a visible covenant between her and the spies. This red cord wasn't just a physical symbol, but a representation of her faith and the promise of divine protection. When the time of battle arrived, the walls of Jericho, which seemed impenetrable, fell before the power of God. The city was taken, and the destruction was complete, as had been announced. However, amidst the chaos and ruin, Rahab's house, marked by the red cord, remained intact. She and her family were spared, not by chance, but because Rahab had acted with faith, courage, and love for her own. Her story could have ended there, with her survival being the climax of her journey. But the truth is that Rahab's story doesn't stop there. After the fall of Jericho, Rahab wasn't just another survivor. She was integrated into the people of Israel, something unthinkable for a woman of her origin and past. She married Salmon, an Israelite leader, and became part of the lineage that would lead to the birth of King David, and later of Jesus Christ. This means that Rahab, a woman who was once seen as marginalized and unworthy, became a crucial link in the divine plan for the redemption of humanity. Her life is a powerful testament that God doesn't look at appearances or people's past, but at the heart and the choices they make. Rahab's story teaches us that no one is beyond the reach of God's grace. It shows us that true faith manifests in concrete actions, and that love for others can lead us to make decisions that transcend our own interests. Rahab wasn't defined by her mistakes or her social status, but by her courage, her faith, and her ability to see beyond circumstances. Her life is a reminder that, regardless of where we come from or what we've done, there is always hope for a new beginning when we put our trust in God. And like Rahab, we can become part of something much greater than ourselves. Rahab, a historical and biblical figure, not only survived the adversities she faced, but truly flourished, leaving a legacy that transcends generations and has been immortalized in the pages of the Holy Scriptures. Originally an inhabitant of Jericho, Rahab was known for her profession as a prostitute, an occupation that, in that era and cultural context, placed her on the margins of society. However, her life took an extraordinary turn when she demonstrated courageous and decisive faith by helping two Israelite spies who had been sent by Joshua to scout the land of Canaan. By hiding the spies and negotiating with them for the safety of her family, Rahab not only ensured her own survival, but also that of her loved ones when Jericho was conquered by the troops of Israel. This act of courage and faith was so significant that she was not only spared from the destruction that befell the city, but was also integrated into the people of Israel. Rahab abandoned her old life and began to live among the Israelites, adopting their culture, religion, and values. Rahab's impact on biblical history didn't end there. Centuries later, her name was recorded honorably in the genealogy of Jesus Christ, as described in the Gospel of Matthew. She is mentioned as one of Jesus' ancestors, alongside other notable women like Ruth and Tamar. This detail is deeply significant, as it shows how God can use people from unlikely backgrounds to fulfill his divine purposes. Rahab, a former prostitute from Jericho, became part of the lineage that culminated in the birth of the Savior of the world, Jesus Christ. This fact is truly incredible and serves as a powerful testament to God's grace and mercy. Rahab's story teaches us that no matter what our past or our failures may be, God can transform our lives in ways that go beyond our understanding. Her inclusion in the genealogy of Jesus is a reminder that faith and courage can lead to an eternal legacy, and that no one is beyond the reach of divine love and purpose. Rahab, a woman who began her life on the fringes of society, became a crucial link in the plan of salvation for humanity, an inspiring example of redemption and hope. Rahab's story is one of the most inspiring and transformative accounts in the Holy Scriptures, and it teaches us a profound and timeless lesson. No matter who you were in the past, what really matters is who you can become when you allow God's grace to work in your life. Rahab was a woman who, in her origin, seemed destined to live in the shadow of marginalization and contempt. As a prostitute in Jericho, she occupied a socially rejected position, and many might have considered her unworthy of any kind of honor or greater purpose. However, her story shows us that God doesn't see people as the world sees them. He sees beyond appearances, mistakes, and circumstances, and recognizes the potential that lies within each of us. Rahab reminds us that God's grace is infinite and reaches everyone, even those who seem the most unexpected or unlikely. She had no reason to expect that her life could change drastically, but when the Israelite spies arrived in Jericho, she recognized the hand of God acting in that situation. Her decision to protect the spies, risking her own life, was an act of extraordinary faith. She not only hid them, but also declared her belief in the God of Israel, saying, "The Lord your God, He is God in heaven above and on earth beneath." Joshua 2:11. This confession of faith, coming from a woman who wasn't part of the people of Israel, was so powerful that it guaranteed not only her survival, but also that of her family. What makes Rahab's story even more impactful is the fact that she not only survived the fall of Jericho, but was also integrated into the people of Israel. She left behind her old life and became part of a new community, adopting a new identity and a new purpose. Centuries later, her name was recorded in the genealogy of Jesus Christ, which made her a direct ancestor of the Savior of the world. This detail is deeply significant, as it shows that God not only accepted her, but also honored her in a way that no one could have foreseen. Rahab is a powerful reminder that our story doesn't have to be defined by our mistakes, failures, or past circumstances. She teaches us that when we put our faith in God, He can transform us and use us in ways that go beyond our imagination. So the next time you feel small, insignificant, or trapped in your past, remember Rahab. She was an unlikely hero, someone who, in the eyes of the world, had no reason to expect a glorious future. However, her faith and courage made her an eternal figure, whose legacy continues to inspire millions of people to this day. Rahab shows us that, with God, there are no limits to what we can become. Her story is a living testament that God's grace is able to redeem, restore, and uplift anyone, no matter how distant or lost they may seem. If you are struggling with feelings of inadequacy or doubts about your worth, look to Rahab and remember, she was an ordinary woman, but her faith made her extraordinary, and the same can happen to you. God is always ready to write a new story in your life, a story of redemption, purpose, and hope.